Hello folks, my name is Mark. This is Mark's Movie Reviews. How you guys doing? So today we're talking about Terminator Dark Fate, which, yeah, got kind of a mixed reaction here. So first off, I'm a massively gigantic Terminator fan. I love the Terminator. I've seen all of the movies in the theaters, actually. I actually saw the first one when it came out. I was like 8 years old and shit. And, you know, because my mother never really cared about how scary movies can psychologically scar children. Right. So, not to say that it scared me, but I actually really loved it. So, I've seen them all. This one, yeah, I don't know, man. Not too happy with this one. In fact, the more I think about it, the more it's kind of, I think, my least favorite Terminator movie. Right. This one completely ignores the events of T3, Salvation, and Genesis, which kind of pisses me off, but, you know, it is what it is. And it starts with Sarah Connor and John Connor in Mexico, hanging out in a bar. And then another Terminator comes that was sent back in time and kills John. Right, and I guess this was one that was sent back at the same time as the one as the T-1000 was in Terminator 2 or something, I don't know. Which, I guess, does that mean there are other Terminators hanging out in the world? I don't know. Anyway, John Connor's dead. He's gone, right? And this causes, you know, Sarah Connor to lose her mind, and she's all depressed. And then she starts getting text messages, which is kind of hard because, you know, they didn't have cell phones that could do text messages in the 90s, right? But anyway, she's getting text messages with coordinates, and the coordinates would say, you know, coordinates for John. So then she'll go and she'll find out, you know, she'll go to the coordinates and find out that there's a Terminator there. So for the last 25 years, she's been hunting Terminators. That's her thing. Then, to the modern day, we cut to a factory worker named Danny, who is an incredibly short woman. Like, I'm not kidding, she's like 5'1" and shit. Like, she's like a child, she's like child size, right? She's working in this factory in Mexico. And, you know, the first couple of scenes are to show that she's like, you know, kind of the mama person of her family. You know, she's taking care of her brother and her father, shit like that. And then a Terminator shows up and tries to kill her. Right, and the Terminator here is the Rev 9 Terminator, which has, you know, the liquid shit on it can separate and form two Terminators. That's the gimmick with this one, right? And then, before it can kill her, human soldier from the future shows up, and it's Grace. And you've seen Grace is actually a super soldier, so she's not a Terminator this time. She's an enhanced human being, and she's capable of going one-on-one with a Terminator and basically kicking its ass. And that's her entire role in this movie, is to beat the shit out of the Terminator over and over again as the movie goes on. Then they meet up with Sarah Connor on a bridge in a very, very contrived but actually kind of badass sequence. And then they find out that the person who is sending her these text messages is in fact the T-800 who killed John Connor in the first place. Yeah. And then, you know, shit happens from there. Right. So, you know, first off, my problem with this movie is not any of the actors. All of the actors are great. You know, Linda Hamilton is great. Arnold is actually very funny in this one, and funny in a good way, not funny in a shitty way like in T3. The actress that plays Grace, like, nails it. She's really good. The thing about her, right, is that Grace is not a Terminator. Right, she's actually a human being. So all of the other Terminators throughout the other series are all very stiff, robotic looking. You know, Arnold is like, has no expression. You know, look at Terminator 1, you know, that's why he has sunglasses on. You know, Arnold wears the sunglasses because it makes him look like a robot. That's the whole point of the sunglasses, right? And there's actually a scene in this one where he purposely does not put the sunglasses on. Right? That's symbolic. Anyway, and you know, the T-1000 in Terminator 2 is very stiff, you know, it's got that Terminator look, you know, he doesn't blink his eyes, stuff like that. Grace also has the Terminator look, right? It's just even in the way her face is lit, stuff like that, but she does it while remaining as an actual person. You know, she comes off as a human being, and she has that kind of don't fuck with me look to her face, and she does it really, really well, you know. And the gimmick with her character is that, you know, she can fight and stuff like this, but then it wears on her body, and she, like, starts to fucking, you know, pass out. There's a part where they rob a pharmacy in order to get drugs for her, and they're like, yeah, I need insulin and all this other shit, and you know. So that's actually kind of a cool character, right? I can't really say the same for Danny. Danny's character is, I don't know, man, just not doing it for me, right? And it's because I think first off she was miscast. The actress that plays Danny is like fucking tiny. You know, she's like 5'1" or something, like really short. And when you put her next to Grace, she's like this tall compared to Grace. You know, Grace is like fucking 6'7" and shit. You know, she's badass. She looks like someone will fuck you up. Danny looks like a child. I don't know if they did that on purpose or to show that, you know, it's not what you look like on the outside. You can still be a leader and you can be badass. Or I don't know. I don't know if that's the case or what, but it doesn't work. And there's a part in the movie at the end where she's got a gun and she's shooting the Terminator, you know, trying to kill it and stuff. And they're trying to make her look like she's, you know, a fighter. She's not a fucking fighter. she's not. She looks like she should be wearing a backpack going to fucking grade school. So, and that was the thing, like Linda Hamilton in the first Terminator starts off as a waitress and she's like, you know, scared and she's a damsel in distress. And by the end of the movie, she's, you know, a fighter. You know, you're terminated, fucker, and hits the button. They try to do the same thing with Danny here, and it doesn't work. And I think that's the problem with this movie, is that they try to hit all of the beats of the first Terminator and the second Terminator, and it doesn't happen. The whole point is that John Connor's dead, right? And Sarah Connor doesn't have a point to live anymore. And then, like, the other Terminator, you know, they call him Carl, and he's like running a rug store and shit. You know, and he finds like a reason to live because he has a family or whatever. I actually don't mind that so much. I think that was kind of, well, it's kind of stupid. But, you know, I mean, a robot, you know, the whole thing with the Terminator is that it's a learning machine. And of course, if it's alive for 50 years or whatever, it's going to learn to be more human. The problem is like all of these things that they're doing, they've already done them in other movies. Like, it's basically they took concepts from every other Terminator movie and even from the TV show, you know, and tried to jam them all together into this thing and then call it something new, and it's not something new. Now, the design of the Terminator is the exact same fucking thing as the Terminator from T3. You know, in fact, it's even, you know, weaker. Like, the one in T3 could form, like, plasma weapons and flamethrowers and shit with its arms and stuff, right? This one can't do that. The gimmick here is this one can separate its fucking nanoprobes off into a different thing. And it's like the nanoprobes thing are the exact same ones from Genesis. It's like they just took like the one in T3 and they took the one in Genesis and put them together and said, hey, new Terminator. It's like, the fuck is that? It's lazy is what it is. So the concept of a Terminator developing feelings is something they explored in the TV show. You know, the idea of a hero that just isn't ready, he's got a destiny that he's not ready to grasp or whatever, you know, and then it gets thrust upon him. That's the exact same story arc of John Connor in T3. It's kind of like they're just doing the same thing over and over and over. You know, even the concept of an old T-800 Terminator or something we saw in Terminator Genesis. It's like they're basically just taking pieces of all the other movies and throwing them together, and it's like, that's not good. That's why it feels like a rehash, because that's what it is. They're just rehashing the same ideas over and over and over. And then there's parts in it where the shit doesn't make sense. You know, like there's a part at the end where they're running and then they get on a plane and then the plane crashes and then blah, 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 and a bunch of shit happens, whatever. Terminator movies are always just fucking chase movies anyway. Then at the very end, they decide, okay, we're going to stand and fight. You know, this is Danny's big moment. She's going to stand and fight. She's going to turn into a fighter, which it totally doesn't fucking work. But they don't have a plan. They have no reason to think that they'll win. This whole time, everything they've thrown at the Terminator, nothing's fucking worked. They shoot it with a bazooka, right? It fucking falls out of an airplane, you know, plane crashes and shit like that. All of this shit happens to the Terminator. Nothing can damage it. And they think that they're just going to fight it with, like, guns, and then Grace gets a chain. She's going to, what, beat it to death with a chain? Like, the fuck are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense, you know? And that's what happens in this movie. Like, it just seems like they ran out of shit to do, and they're just trying to make T2. So my other thing here is that I really don't like it just in general when a movie series just cuts out pieces of the story that they don't like and just tosses them aside. You know what I mean? I really hate that, and I really kind of hope that if they make a sequel to this, which it's looking like there probably won't be because it kind of bombed, but you know, if they ever did, I would hope that they would try to fold it back in to the rest of the story. You know, it irks me. It's like you've got a perfectly good series, right? Perfectly good series of movies that are not half bad. You know, and then why just discount what you've already done? Why not build on it? You know, the best franchises are the ones that build on what came before, even if those movies were, you know, not the best movies. So I think really what the Terminator franchise needs is to just move on. You know, they keep trying to remake the same fucking thing because they're trying to hit that magic formula that made Terminator 2 so good. And what you don't get is that, you know, that's lightning in a bottle. You're not going to get it again. And people don't want to see that again. People want to see the goddamn future war, right? Continue the story, you know. They move on. We already know what happens. We've already seen this. We've seen this exact same movie like 4 times already. Move on to the next part. I want to see robots and shit. I want to see laser beams. I want to see a bombed out post-apocalyptic city with people living in fucking sewers and, you know, chewing on cockroaches and lighting oily rats on fire to survive and shit like that. I want to see squalor. I want to see the scenes from Terminator 1 where Kyle Reese is firing at the Terminator and it's blowing everybody away with that fucking chain gun, machine gun and shit. Just fucking give us the goddamn future war. That's all I want. Anyway, so I don't know. For this particular movie, I mean, I'd have to give it really not too good, you know, on a 1 to 5 star rating, 1.5, really. And it's just because it's like, it could be so much better. It could really be so much better. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's fun. It's got good explosions and great special effects and blah blah blah. Should you go see it? Nah. I don't know. I think for this one I'd have to say wait till it comes out on Netflix or whatever. Right. Anyway, that's all I got, folks. Adios.